Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of season 2 of our podcast, Law That Leads. I'm very happy to have Anupreet Malik with us here today from AKM Financial Solutions. Not only she's a financial planner and managing partner, she's also a mom to a beautiful 3-year-old girl. As the managing partner of AKM, which is a boutique estate and financial planning services firm, Anu and her team specialize in a number of areas such as life, health, wealth, travel, and employee benefit solutions. Not only they are amazing to work with your families to protect what is most important to you, but they also often work with business owners and other professionals industry-wide. Their mission is to provide a trusted and client-focused solution and services. Prior to joining financial services, Anu used to work with luxury collection hotels. So who best to know better about client service? She is also a newcomer to Canada. Her and her husband came here about a decade ago, and in her free time, she loves to travel and spend time with her family. She's very passionate about creating an impact on lives of many Canadians, and we are very happy to have Anu with us here today. So without further ado, welcome Anu, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Paula. It's a pleasure to be here.
So tell us a little bit more about what your initial conversations look like with your clients, especially newcomers that perhaps Canada and the regulatory processes and, sort of the usual what is normal might not necessarily be so normal back home.
Right. So whenever we meet our clients, we always, focus on two things. One is risk management. The other one is asset management. When we talk about risk management, it's more to do with, things that are unforeseen circumstances or events of life. Could be somebody getting disabled, somebody having a critical illness, or maybe dying prematurely or having a health issue. So topics which are not given due importance most of the times. So a lot of times, our clients would like to put this away for another day, the discussions for another day, and that's really where our role as their advisors really comes in, because we truly believe that it's very important to stay protected, especially if you're coming in, as you said, for any kind of new immigrant family. When you're coming in, you're building everything from scratch, and to be well protected is something where you should really start on. The second part of our practice is asset management, which is technically wealth management that we do, and we do so through mutual funds, through segregated funds and annuities. And we really love to make our clients' money work for them.
Of course. Well, risk management is definitely something we understand very well. We try to do, as you know, we have a wills and estates practice as well. And while we routinely help clients, we find that because of our connections to our own communities, a lot of cultures, they don't necessarily believe in doing this because they almost see it as bad luck, or they're inviting something in prematurely, as you said.
Exactly.
So it becomes
a taboo.
Very difficult. Exactly. Yeah. It's very taboo, and it's a difficult conversation to have.
Exactly.
But I think, times have changed, and I think especially in Canada and North America, this is almost a rite of passage. This is planning, right?
Absolutely. And that's why, when we meet our clients for initial part of the meeting, we focus a lot on fact finding, a lot on discovery. What we truly also believe in is our recommendations can only be as strong as our needs analysis really is about you. So we like to know everything about our clients. So maybe, is there an inheritance that you want to leave? Is there a legacy that you have in mind? Is there a charitable donation that you want to make? Do you have a mortgage on your head? Are you a first-time home buyer? Or maybe do you have RRSPs, TFSAs? What is your family dynamic? Is it a blended family? So we like to talk about all aspects. We like to know everything about you because the more we know about you, the stronger our recommendations, as I said. Another approach that we generally take is going through something which is called a financial planning pyramid, and that's something unique to our practice. It's more educational for a lot of families, for a lot of new immigrants and Canadians who have been here for years and years. A financial planning pyramid, I'll quickly take you through maybe in quick 2 minutes we'll spend on it. So a financial planning pyramid is like a Bible of financial planning. The base of the pyramid is actually a financial plan. So most people in this part of the world really lack a financial plan, or maybe in all parts of the world lack a financial plan. That's again where we come in. We like to remind you of the potential gaps. So the base is the plan, and the top is the least important. The base is the most important because that's really where the foundation of the entire pyramid really rests. So then we talk about what all does a plan really entail. The first and the foremost is will or power of attorneys, which most people do not have, and we are not licensed for drafting wills or power of attorney. But the reason why we still talk about it is because it's so crucial for any kind of a financial plan. So that's really the number one thing. And as we progress up the pyramid, we reach uncontrollable events of life, which could be, dying prematurely, which is taken care by life insurance, suffering of a serious illness, which is taken care by critical illness insurance, somebody getting disabled, which is a disability insurance, or maybe having a health issue. A lot of people are blessed to have a group benefits plan, but not everybody is. So that's where a personal health insurance plan really comes in. Moving up from there is when we reach controllable. So sometimes, people do a mistake of planning for controllables before non-controllables, which is also okay. But, what would you do if you have suddenly somebody is struck by cancer, cannot work for a year or 2 years? That's why we say plan for the non-controllables first, and then it's the best to progress upwards. Then when you reach the controllable part of the pyramid, it contains controllable priorities, things which are directly in your control. Maybe it's retirement income that you want to plan for. That's the RRSP or a logged-in account that you are planning for. Maybe you have a pension plan through work, a TFSA that you may want to do, or maybe RESP or an educational saving that you want to plan for. A lot of people like to be debt-free, and that's really their priority when they are in their 50s or 60s, because everybody wants to be debt-free as much as they can before they retire. So that's planning for controllables. Of course, emergency fund is an integral part.
Yeah, of course.
So on top of the pyramid is where we have estate preservation and maximizing your wealth. So that's where everybody wants to be. Everybody wants to be on top of the pyramid at some point of time in their lives. The only word of caution we often give is in order for you to reach there or sustain yourself there, it's very crucial that your buckets in controllables and non-controllables are full, or at least close to full. Because, as we discussed, one wrong incident, one disability, one premature death in the family, somebody suffering a serious illness and being off work for 1 or 2 years could damage or collapse your complete financial plan. So what you saved for RRSPs or your retirement income all of this while gets eaten up for a non-controllable event. So that's the educational approach we like to take, because we truly believe in educating and telling our clients what the best is. And we derive that stage only by doing a proper need analysis. So that's really our focus for the initial part of our meetings.
And I'm so glad you said that, because it's so important to be going on a case-by-case basis, even for us as well. Whenever clients come in, it is crucial to go over cultural background, your history here in Canada or journey here, just sort of trying to figure out every single aspect possible, because one little change in that, or one little puzzle in all of that could really change, as you said, your recommendations or our advice. And it's funny enough, because I don't practice this area law myself, but I always found it interesting that now, because I practice family law, and now we have to do, you have to do calculations, which is called your net family property. And usually when you're going through a separation, that's the first thing you divide. And it's really interesting how proper planning is so important, because if there is an inheritance situation, even though it doesn't, there's many exceptions and sometimes it will not fall under NFP, but it goes back to proper planning and having a will. If parents choose for their children to inherit something from their estate. But in Ontario, you can actually have a classification where that goes directly to your children, but not to their spouses. Wow. So now it becomes a little bit of a different conversation when, I hope that no one goes through the division of their net family property. Yeah. It's not a pretty place to be. Absolutely. And obviously we don't advocate for it. Yeah. But it's just interesting to show how proper planning could bring you into a clearer place.
Exactly.
I mean, when you're going through family proceedings, the best case scenario is to, have your separation agreement, everything is amicable. You don't even need the court's help. You're just sort of, organizing everything on your own. But that's not
the truth of many Canadians.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So, which is really unfortunate. So that's why I think it's much more important in this environment to have proper planning.
Absolutely.
And to make sure that if that day does come, then you're prepared for it.
Exactly.
But I know also in our own culture too, if you're sort of planning for it, then you're almost seeing as, well, you don't need to talk about that. Yeah. And to me, I think it's after living here for so many years, you sort of want to blend your traditions, but you also have to be practical about what real life is like here.
Right.
So while it's great to follow your traditions, I also think it's very dangerous to just rely on your traditions and not realize what real practical life is like here in your new home.
You're right. And when we moved, when I moved 10, 11 years ago from India to Canada, there are so many things that you adapt for, whether it's weather, whether it's food, language. There's so many things that you adapt to. And when I was being raised in India, I was taught to save first and then spend the rest, whatever the remaining is.
Right.
But unfortunately, when you come here, you gain so much. You gain wealth of experiences. But oftentimes in the beginning, you are like, oh, I'm spending everything. I'm not saving anything. My parents taught me to save first, and it's vice versa right now. So I think you adapt. And that's really where our financial planning pyramid really comes in, because it teaches you that it's important to go through follow the basics and follow the right approach towards your financial well-being. Yeah.
So tell us, when someone comes in and asks for your help, and you're sort of the first person that they go to, so how does your estate planning start? What kind of conversations are you having?
Right. So I always say that a good estate planning always really starts through a will. So create that will. And the reason why we give will a lot of importance is because you can orchestrate your wishes through the will. You can name your intended heirs through the will. And if there's a disabled child in the family or somebody you want to provide for all throughout the life, you can mention that in the will. Most of our clients, I would be very honest, do not have will or power of attorneys in place. And that's what we constantly remind them of. A trust is a great tool if you want to still retain control and not distribute assets immediately upon death, and you still want it to be controlled. A trust is a good tool. So all of that happens the conversation starts through a will. And also what I feel is you could maximize some tax planning opportunities, and also have some creditor protection if you have a will. Unfortunately, if somebody dies without a will and has intestate succession, it could lead to a lot of expenses, and not just expenses, a lot of delays, sometimes days and months. So in order to refrain from all of that, our conversations always start through a will and power of attorneys, and we always document in case somebody has it or not. So that's where it starts, and then we get into our discovery of what their wishes are, what the goals are, and more into it.
That's amazing. And doing this for as long as you've been doing it, what strategies do you think are important, or what strategies have you adapted in doing this?
So there are many. It's estate planning again is like an ocean, but maybe we can talk about 3 or 4 popular strategies.
Of course.
So, and we're talking about Ontario here, right? So the first one I would say is gifting assets while you're living. So sometimes parents like to gift assets to the recipient while they are living. However, I would say that that's not always the best solution. It's not a one solution fits all approach, because doing so during your lifetime could there's certain considerations that I would say that you must keep in mind, because it could invite some disposing of tax liabilities. That's one. The other thing is you may lose control of that asset completely. Is that parent or is that person ready for it or not? The third, I would consideration that through gifting that you should really, really be mindful about is in doing so, you are exposing the asset to recipients, creditors, potential claims, and also marital claims. So like how we were talking, if somebody gets into a marital dispute, a breakdown, it could be a part of the net family property. So that's one key consideration that a lot of people make. The second thing I would say, in order for you to think about estate planning, and what you could do is you could transfer assets into joint tenancy with the right of survivorship. So I'm sure you see that a lot happening with real estate.
Yes, we do. And we actually spoke about this in our second episode with our real estate associate, Eamon. And and I said this exact same thing where I said, this should be common knowledge.
Right.
How you hold ownership of a home, especially here.
Yes.
It's so important, and we find that people have no clue.
Yeah.
And it really is concerning. These are important things, especially with the amount of newcomers we have in Canada.
Right.
It really should be talked about more often, so that everybody has a chance to understand.
Yeah.
And then that way it would also help minimize any mistakes, or just if people know better, they'll do better.
Yeah, exactly. Like having a clear demarcation between joint tenancy and tenancy in common. And I feel that two other things which are really easy peasy, which I would say everybody should do it right away, is name beneficiaries on their registered accounts. So if somebody has an RRSP or any kind of registered account with the bank or even with your employer, please name beneficiaries. Naming beneficiaries with your life insurance is another thing which is very, very important and could make a lot of difference to your beneficiaries eventually. When we name beneficiaries with any kind of life insurance, there are two kinds of beneficiaries that you could really name. The first one is primary and the second is secondary. The primary beneficiary is the person, I'll take an example, let's say it's two spouses, they have a life insurance and the wife names the husband as the primary beneficiary. If the wife passes away, the husband gets the life insurance proceeds. However, what happens if they both pass away together at the same time? You still want your children, for example, to be the beneficiaries. So that's why it's the best to name the secondary beneficiaries or the contingent beneficiaries. If you have one child, two child, you can allocate the percentages the way you want. So, and if you have minor children or minor child, you could consider naming a trustee too. And so that's why I said it's easy peasy. If you already have a life insurance in place or you have registered accounts, please go ahead and name beneficiaries there.
But this is why it's so important to have somebody like yourself in your team, so that you could receive that advice before you even arrange your life insurance or whatever product.
Exactly.
I think it's just so important to have the right advice and gain as much knowledge as possible before you arrange something or sign something.
Absolutely.
It sounds very lawyerly to say, but it's
always about the advice,
truth, right? So in this day and age, with Instagram and all these things, it's sort of it's that much more important to know who you're going to for advice.
Yeah, because you can, there's so much available online, but to have that person to give you the right advice, I know it creates a whole difference in your lives completely.
Yeah. So for our audience that, might have never encountered someone like yourself before or your company, what is your last piece of advice that they could walk away with?
I would say create a will. That's something that
Sounds simple enough.
That's something that comes to my mind immediately. Create a will and discuss essentials of a will and power of attorney with your lawyers. The second thing which comes to my mind immediately, and I know that we did not talk much about this area, but a food for thought is protect your mortgage. I know that a lot of us are first-time home buyers plan. A lot of us are have multiple real estate investments or condos. Mortgage is the biggest debt for most Canadians, and it's so important to protect that. So you could consider protecting your mortgage for your family so that the family is not under any kind of financial stress. So protection, I would say, is always the key. And I say this because my team and I, we at AKM Financial Solutions are truly driven by our purpose of creating an impact on lives of Canadians. And we are truly passionate and truly proud of what we do on a daily basis.
I agree. And honestly, of course, we always recommend to our clients to receive that piece of advice before, talking about the different avenues that they can take. But for all of our audience that might just be discovering you, how can they contact you?
So I could be contacted via phone or email. My phone number is 647-500-7399. My email address is anupreet.malik@sunlife.com.
Perfect. Well, Anu, thank you so much for being here today. As always, it's a pleasure to talk with you.
Likewise.
Every time I talk to you, I feel like I learned something new.
Yeah, likewise. It's always educational to speak with you, Paula.
Yeah. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me over, Paula. It was wonderful to be here. It's always educational to listen to you and talk to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and drive safe.
This podcast is brought to you by ALF LLP. We hope you found today's discussion insightful and empowering. This is a kind reminder that our content is intended for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute as legal advice. Every situation is unique. So if you need legal support, we encourage you to book a consultation with one of our lawyers on our website, alfllp.ca. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others. For more engaging conversations, expert insights, and practical advice, follow us on social media at @ALFLLP. That's where you can find our podcast, Law That Leads. Thanks again for listening, and more importantly, drive safe.